What's up, everybody? It's the Power Rankings Podcast, aka the Power Rankings Show. I'm going to switch my microphone so I sound more like a man. Big news today. This is going to be an interesting show because Marcus called me literally, 15 minutes ago and said, I thought he was calling me to say, yo, Courtney's waiting on you. Get your butt in gear. I thought for sure so it was going to happen. And instead, I didn't hear about the Russell Wilson trades. I just heard about it. Marcus has been frantically looking up details. He's got that jolt of energy that you get when you hear big news like this. So that's one of the things we had to talk about. We have some other things as well. By the way, if you're expecting Chad Ryder, he is going to be on with us on Thursday. So make sure to join us for that. He is currently driving back from Indy listening to Alice in Chains. So that's Chad's story. Marcus, let's dive right into the trade, initial reaction, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many big news things that happened in the last, 24 hours between Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Calvin Ridley. And I think we have to start with the biggest news of all. The Cowboys re-signed fifth receiver Noah Brown. I think it's a great move by them. Great blocking receiver, plays on special teams. Championship level move there, Elliot.
Yeah, I knew they were going to resign him though. Listen, when you have a wide receiver, they're probably going to lose. They're going to lose two wide receivers, right?
I mean, yeah, it's a huge move. No, let's start. Let's start with the Russell Wilson stuff.
Yeah.
I think Denver had to do something like this, right? Because once Aaron Rodgers was off the table, we'll get to that in a little bit.
Let's hammer out the details here that we know, right?
Yeah. So this is what we've got so far. It's Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, the number 9 pick in this year's class, the first round pick next year, a second round pick this year. Not sure which one yet because they actually have 2. They have their original one, plus they have the one that the Rams gave them for Von Miller, and then a second round pick next year. The Broncos get back Russell Wilson and a 4th round pick, I believe, next year. So that's the trade overall. I want to ask you, what do you think?
Well, so a couple of things. Number one, I kind of wonder how this played out because our second bit of news that we're going to talk about with Aaron Rodgers, but I think it's really sad. That's my thought. When you have a quarterback who has played at a level that Russell Wilson is, and I joke about Russell Wilson. Yes, he can be very, very corny on social media, and there seemed to be a rift there between him and the organization over the last few years. But when you've had a quarterback that's played at that level for 10 years, I don't, there has to be extenuating circumstances to let a guy like that go. And I mean, do you love this move for the Broncos? I don't know. I don't know that the Broncos are in a championship window, so to speak. Are they to you?
I don't know. I think they almost feel like they are, but I don't know if that roster's a championship roster, right? Like I think they've got some really nice pieces at certain spots, but I think the defense is a little overrated. I think the offensive line needs a lot of work, but listen, if you have a franchise quarterback and you've got multiple weapons in offense you really like, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, I like Javonte Williams. It sounds like they're bringing back Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? I mean, I guess I could see it.
In the way that I see this team is good secondary, better than most.
Yes.
Good kicker, good pair of running backs, although you don't really care as much about that. They do have that
quarterback kicker combo. This is a good one, by the way. I don't know if it's as good as some of the other ones, but listen, Russell Wilson and McManus are pretty good together.
Yeah, they've got wide receivers with upside. I don't want to say good wide receiver core because you've got to be on the field and you've got to be consistent. That's what I see as strong points for this team. They're going to need a backup quarterback.
Do you think the receivers fit well with Russell Wilson?
Actually, yeah. If you remember the game, well, of course you remember the Cowboy game when Bridgewater went vertical. He's got the receivers that can make plays on the ball. Russell Wilson throws moon balls. I call them Jeff Blake specials. obviously he was much better than Jeff Blake, but they throw a very, very similar deep ball. I think that part's going to be fine. I wonder, one, how much does he want to run at this stage of his career? Two, what's his conditioning like right now? It's going to be a little bit of an adjustment playing there. I think, remember, Peyton Manning wasn't running all over the field. Peyton Manning was strictly a pocket passer. A lot of players talk about playing there. It's different when you're running around. And Russell Wilson's one of those guys you might say, oh, that stuff's all overrated about the thin air and stuff. How many plays have we seen over Russell Wilson's career where he literally extends a play for like 8 seconds, running around behind the line of scrimmage and so on and so forth?
I do think this is one of the better offensive lines that Russell Wilson will ever play with. Like the right side of that line needs a little bit of work, but with Garrett Bowles and Cushenberry and Dalton Reisner, it's not a top 10 offensive line, but it's certainly
viable. It's viable.
It's viable. Right.
They're an organization that's actually invested in their offensive line. And you just mentioned Broyles. He was a high pick. I don't remember exactly where he went, but he went in the first round.
Garrett Bowles was a late first round pick. He's got a huge contract. He's a good player. I do get a little bit nervous with Mike Munchak leaving, their offensive line coach.
Yeah, Mike Munchak's been around a long time, Hall of Fame caliber lineman for the Oilers, and was with Pittsburgh. Yeah. By the way, I said Broyles, so that's my first miss.
That's fair.
You didn't catch it, but I caught it, and I'm honest in our tally. The other side of this is obviously Seattle. You have a chance to rebuild your team, and you have a chance to kind of do what you did in 2012, right? Now, what Seattle did in 2012 is they went out and got Matt Flynn in free agency. Remember, he had that 490-yard passing game against the Lions the last week of the season.
Yeah.
I think Stafford had a huge amount of yards passing in that game too. And the Seahawks went out, they signed him, and Russell Wilson was the 3rd round pick who beat him out. Maybe they're banking on catching lightning in a bottle again, but the advantage, if they can do that, the huge advantage they had with Russell Wilson is those first 3 years, 12, 13, 14, when they were so good. They went to the divisional round and lost a close game. They won the Super Bowl. They lost the Super Bowl. Part of that was because Russell Wilson was making $600,000 and change per year. Now you have the opportunity to do that again, although 3rd round picks make more than that now, but you get the point.
This whole Russell Wilson and the Seahawks thing, the entire career has been fascinating because it seems like forever they wanted to replace him. Like when he won a Super Bowl, it was a couple of years later, they were trying to trade up in the 2017 draft to go get a quarterback. The rumor was back at the time, they wanted to go, I believe it was from like 30 all the way up inside of the top 10 to get Patrick Mahomes. They were sniffing around quarterbacks a couple of years ago. I don't know what it is with Pete Carroll and Wilson or the front office, but it never seemed like they were totally committed to one another. And I'm guessing John Schneider, the GM this offseason, sat down and said, listen, we don't have a 1st round pick this year. We don't have a lot of cap space, and we are probably a distant 4th in our own division in terms of talent level. Are we going to be able to compete with Russell Wilson over the next 3 years? And the answer is no. Why not trade him right now, get a bunch of draft picks, a couple of young players, and start the rebuild? Because I didn't think that Russell Wilson by himself was going to be enough to win that division.
You want a hot sports opinion fresh out of the oven that I bet you is not on the old Twitter yet. This is going to be the most loaded division in the history of pro football in terms of quarterbacks ever.
I mean, Derek Carr is the distant fourth best quarterback in the division, right?
And
he's
Derek
good.
Carr is outstanding. Yeah, Derek Carr to me is probably the 10th best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, 10 to 13. Yeah, around there.
Okay. Derek Carr's probably going to be a Hall of Very Gooder. So I see Derek Carr kind of like Phillip Rivers. I think that's probably where he's going to end up. It's so hard to say. Derek Carr's got a lot of time left. That's your worst quarterback in the division. If Phillip Rivers is your worst quarterback in the division, Patrick Mahomes is going to go to the Hall of Fame. Justin Herbert certainly has that kind of trajectory. And Russell Wilson to me already is a Hall of Famer. So do you have any disagreement with those?
I was trying to think, was there a year when there was Brett Favre with the Vikings, Aaron Rodgers with the Packers, Matt Stafford with the Lions? Was he there yet?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And
yes.
Rex Grossman with the Bears. No, I don't think Rex Grossman was there anymore.
You're talking about 2009. In 2009, the Bears starting quarterback was Jay Cutler.
Sorry. That's not bad, but it's not quite as good.
No, it's not as good.
That was the best one I can think of.
He had Brett Favre on his last legs. I mean, yes, he had a great year. By the way, Matt Stafford was not good in 2009. He was hurt the whole year almost.
How about 2020? The NFC South. Does that one measure up? Because that was Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, and
go ahead, Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, that's right.
You're really
this
trying
is the
to stretch here.
No, this is the best. This is the best one, at least I can remember in recent memory, right?
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. Can we let's go over those details of the trade again in terms of what kind of capital was given up here?
Yeah. Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris. Those are the three players. The Broncos are trading pick number 9 in this year's class, plus their 2023 first round pick, their 2022 second round pick. Again, not sure which one it is yet because they have two. Their 2023 second round pick, and they get back Russell Wilson in this year's fourth round pick.
Wait, so 2 firsts and 2 seconds?
Yes. Plus those 3 players. Yes.
That's too much. It's too much, I think.
It probably depends on a couple things, right? Number one, where does that pick in 2023 land? Is that a top 10 pick? Does this Russell Wilson thing just completely flame out? Or is it pick 30 or pick 32 like it ended up working out for the Rams this year? If that's a pick in the late 20s or 30s, who cares?
That's fair.
Right?
That's fair. I think it's probably more like pick 20 or pick 22.
Okay. But I guess I compare that to other years, like other draft classes. And I know it's different, but last year, the 49ers gave up pick 12, a first rounder in 2022 and 2023 to go up to pick 3 to get an unknown in Trey Lance. Obviously, you're getting a much younger player, but I don't know. Let's talk about something that I feel very strongly about. Is I really worry about Russell Wilson and how he's going to age. I thought last year we already started to see some signs of, I don't know if decay is the right word, but I didn't think he was the same quarterback. And
wow, he's like a ship orbiting. Is his orbit's decaying? Is that what we're saying?
Well,
I haven't ever heard someone say he's decaying. Like,
I mean, he kind of is. Like the play is just decreasing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? And I worry about smaller quarterbacks being able to hold up. And if he loses 10% of his athleticism, does that not make Russell Wilson?
Yeah. I mean, well, we've had this conversation about other quarterbacks. I think it's a fair point that you're making. I think it's a fair point. But, when we've talked about the Cowboys, for example, I've told you that not everybody can be good. You can't say that Amari Cooper is the ace of spades for that team, and then in the same breath say that Dak Prescott is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. It's either one or the other. I mean, either because their offense, as good as it does statistically, it flamed out in the playoffs, and we've been over this territory before. But my point is, not everybody can be good. Something had to give. That's why they keep losing. Maybe it's the coaching. Same thing with this trade to me. It's either one or the other. Either draft picks are as immensely valuable as everyone who loves the draft says they are, or the quarterback, you have to have a quarterback to win. I don't think that it can be totally both.
Oh, I think draft picks are so overrated. I do.
That's where I'm heading with this. So if you're one of the camp that says, yes, the draft is the most, I used to get told this all the time, because as you know, I'm not a huge draft guy. And I used to get told at the NFL all the time that you're crazy, that the draft is the most important thing. And I said, I just don't see it. And it's trades like this is why I don't see it.
Yes, I agree with you. I think draft picks are wildly overrated. It doesn't mean they're not important, because they are. But I think way too often we treat draft picks like gold. But the second you use that draft pick on a player,
yes,
the value instantly decreases, right?
It's like getting a new car.
Right, exactly. And if you pick the wrong player, your value drops off significantly, right? So I think the appeal of a first round pick is always, hey, that could be the next Aaron Rodgers, or it could be the next Patrick Mahomes. In reality, more often than not, it's the next Jake Locker, right?
Yep. This guy is going to be the left tackle for the next 10 years for this ball club. Three years later.
Do you know what I do think matters a lot more, though, is the number of picks you have. And that's why part of me still likes this trade for the Broncos, is because they still have a bunch of draft capital left because they made that trade for Von Miller, right? So now they've got their quarterback, they've got their receivers, they've got their offensive line, and they still have like 10 picks between the second round and the seventh round. If they can turn those into 2 or 3 quality starters, they're going to be just fine, even if they don't have a top, 10 pick in this year's class.
Yeah, I'm with you. And just to explain my analogy to our listeners, because sometimes I conflate years of my phone conversations with our podcast. When we've talked about the Cowboys, Marcus was really bummed out that Amari Cooper was leaving. And I said, hey, yeah. And I said, okay, if this guy is that good, then Dak Prescott can't be as good as you say he is. Or it's vice versa. Amari Cooper is very good, but he's not an elite receiver, and Dak Prescott can win with lesser players. But if both of them are absolutely elite, then how come there's often dysfunction at certain points in the game offensively when they have as much talent as they do? That's kind of the premise of where I was going, is you can't have it both ways. If you're one of those people that thinks that draft picks are gold, that's fine. Yeah. That your first round pick is everything. Your second round pick is everything. But then you can't also say that quarterback and players are the most important, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And by the way, I think we have enough evidence now to say that this is a totally quarterback-centric league, and quarterbacks are far more important than draft picks. So from that standpoint, I understand giving up all that they did. But if that pick is not pick number 22, Marcus, and they go 6 and 11 this year, and that pick awful. This is tough.
Yeah. Last thing on this trade before we move on to some other news.
Sure.
I find it really interesting, though, that Pete Carroll is now going to be part of a rebuild. First of all, I don't really see him as a coach that's going to be a rebuilding coach. And he's the oldest coach in the league, right?
Yep.
So is he going to see this thing through, or are they going to try to flip these picks for somebody else and go try to compete this year? Or are they actually going to bottom out?
Yeah, well, we talked about this on our last Thursday's podcast when I told you I saw the video of Matt Eberflus getting the George Halas's hat. And George Halas is the oldest coach ever in the history of the NFL. He coached at 72 years old. Well, he's the oldest permanent. We had an interim, Romeo Crennel, and we talked about how it's unusual that we had several coaches that are getting up there. And Pete Carroll's one that we mentioned, But I would say this too, Marcus, how long does a rebuild take? If you're Seattle, remember
2 years,
2011, they were 6-10.
Yeah.
They were 6-10. 2012, they got Russell Wilson. And I think I don't remember what their record was that year, maybe 11-5, 10-6, but they were, in the playoffs and good. They beat Washington in the first round.
Yep.
They barely lost to Atlanta. They had a really nice comeback. Maybe there are the pieces here. I will say this, though, that 2011 Seahawks team that went into 2012, that team had a rookie Cam Chancellor, a rookie Richard Sherman, a second-year Earl Thomas. Marshawn Lynch was in his second year there. They had better pieces than this team.
Yep. All right, let's. I'm sure we're going to talk about this all offseason long, so don't worry about that. But let's talk about the Aaron Rodgers news. I don't think it's all that surprising because I think we were getting whispers of this over the last couple of weeks. But Aaron Rodgers back in Green Bay. The news was first reported by Pat McAfee on the Pat McAfee Show. He said that Rodgers seriously considered retirement until he got a 4-year, $200 million deal from the Packers. So, Elliot, your thoughts?
Well, so when you called me to talk about Russell Wilson, we kind of agreed that most likely what happened is the Broncos found out that he was going to re-sign at the combine, and went this direction. There is a slim possibility that Aaron Rodgers camp found out that the Broncos were maybe more interested in Russell Wilson because of the age gap and maybe some mobility factors. Aaron Rodgers' mobility wasn't exactly wonderful at the end of last year.
Let me ask you this before we keep going. Mm-hmm. If Denver would have offered that same exact deal for Aaron Rodgers, would you have, if you're Green Bay, would you have said yes?
Yes, I would. If I believed if I believe in Jordan Love at all, I say yes.
That's why I would have said no.
Okay. I mean, I guess, Marcus, in this, the kind of Aaron Rodgers re-signing leads this into a different direction. This is something you and I could spend an entire free-flowing Friday podcast on. Is your goal to win a Super Bowl, or is your goal to be 10-7, 11-6, essentially be the Cowboys, to be competitive every year? Yep. And like the Bengals were from like 2009 to 2015, the Bengals pretty much made the playoffs every year.
Yep.
The Texans were like that for a while in the early 2010s. This is what I'm curious about. You and I have always kind of both agreed that it's better to just try to win now. And we did sing the Rams praises, Les Snead, Kevin Demoff, the entire organization, and obviously Sean McVay too, but the front office for going for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But 3 years from now, is anyone going to care that the Rams won the Super Bowl? I mean, all
those diehard Rams fans out in LA are going to care, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know Eagles fans care that the Eagles won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles because it was their first. But do you hear anyone at all when you're talking football with me on the phone, family members? Does anyone ever talk to you because you have football get-togethers all the time?
Oh, yeah.
Does anyone ever say to you, man, wow, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, that was really something? Nobody, I bet you it's never even come up.
So it's one of those things. How much slack does a Super Bowl win by you? Right.
That's really all it's become anymore, because football's so now. We're all Instagram. It's just, what video did we see today? Nobody cares if you won the Super Bowl a few years ago. So I might argue to you right now that it's better to go 11-6, lose in the divisional round, and be profitable every year, and then to win a Super Bowl.
I would argue that if most teams are profitable, regardless if they go 11-6.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Like profitable.
Right.
Slice.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Basically, the goal is to have a December primetime game that's meaningful, right? That's every year, right? Is to make sure that you're still in the hunt by the time we get to week 15, 16, 17, so you can continue to sell jerseys around Christmas time, right?
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. And I think in the league that's so 50-50, right? Where as long as you get into the playoffs, who knows what can happen. I get what you're saying, but it's still about winning, right? Like if you're Sean McVay and Les Snead now, you probably have lifetime jobs in the NFL because you won a Super Bowl. It's job security. Now that you've won one, you're always going to have a spot in the league. So
you care from that. You care from that point.
I think that matters a little bit, right?
But if we look at the sport, you're looking from the micro view. I'm going to go macroeconomics here on you. This is not old man get off my lawn, because I Gran Torino the crap out of this podcast sometimes. I'm not doing it right now. But there are differences in Marcus's and what we grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
You grew up with salary cap, free agency. That's just part of the deal.
Yep.
I did not. That was a new thing. And so I can tell you that when I was a kid, that it did very much matter that, say, this team won the Super Bowl, that the Raiders won the Super Bowl in '83 was still something that we talked about in 1988. It's not like that anymore. It's all about now.
I mean, let's just talk about how you and I reacted to this trade that happened, right? This kind of stuff gets me really excited. Right. Like I'm really excited to talk about what the Seahawks are going to do long-term and what the Broncos are going to do this year. And I think this trade bummed you out a little bit because you like it when superstars stay with their teams their whole careers, right?
Yes. Well, that, and I also realize, and now let's go ahead and roll the Gran Torino out, because here it comes. Uh, Curmudgeon Carl, in case you guys missed him, he's back. I get so tired of the injection of social media adrenaline. And that's what this is a lot of times. It's, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to Twitter. What's the latest news? Wow. And this is huge news until tomorrow. And then tomorrow, people are going to be searching for something else.
Oh, yeah. The next trade. I'm already seeing it on Twitter right now.
Yes.
Who are the Seahawks going to trade now? Because they've traded Russell Wilson. What's Tyler Lockett going to get? We're not even like a half an hour removed from the trade. But I love that. Like, that's always thinking, try to 2-3 moves ahead. But I understand if you're an older school fan of the NFL, why this isn't always the most appealing thing, right?
Even if you're a younger school fan, you realize this isn't always optimal. Sometimes it works out. It worked out in Peyton Manning's case. Okay, so have you ever been to Europe?
I have not.
I didn't think you had. Have you been to like Cancun with your wife?
Yes.
Okay. So first time I went to Europe, when I got back, I remember, and I had gone to Cancun a couple of times. Then I went to Europe again, and I realized there's this huge difference. And it's the same kind of thing. When you go to Cancun, you probably have too many margaritas. You sit at the beach, you eat like a pig, or you go to one of those all-inclusive places.
Oh, yeah.
And you have a great time. It's fun, it's relaxing, but 10 years later, you don't really remember like a lot of the things you did. You go to Europe and you walk around everywhere. You're not always having a blast. Sometimes you wish you just had a margarita.
And say, how many margaritas are you having though at the beach though?
Yeah. But when you come back from Europe for the first time or the second time, you remember almost everything you did. One is excitement. The other is fulfillment. And that's what I feel like these kind of things are. Fulfillment is having a quarterback be the quarterback of your franchise. And you can hang your hat on that this guy, that Phillip Rivers was a Charger for this many years or whatever. Excitement is, oh boy, what's the next trade? And so, yes, I lean more towards the fulfillment side. That's the difference. I don't like the era that we're in where a team wins a Super Bowl and 5 years later, no one even remembers. Do you think the average fan could tell you more than 8 players on that 2017 Eagles team?
Yeah, probably not.
No. So that's the part that I miss. So the Aaron Rodgers deal, they're making a play to win right now. If they traded Aaron Rodgers for more than what the Seahawks got, that's making a play for sustainability. And so you say you'd rather have Aaron Rodgers to try to win it all this year.
Yeah, because that team is not in great cap shape. Yeah, they don't have a ton of young talent. So might as well keep Aaron Rodgers, franchise tag Devontae Adams, and push money down to the future, because this is your best shot now. And especially now that Seattle traded Russell Wilson, like,
oh, I think we lost you, bro. I think Marcus froze up. So there we go. Well, I'll just take it from here. One of the things that I'm thinking about this is the GM of the Packers. Was this move made out of fear? Because if you don't re-sign Aaron Rodgers and we're good. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
We had you frozen. Go ahead. Finish your thought, because I started on a new one.
Yeah. Why not run it back for one more year? Why not?
Okay. Do you think this was made out of fear? Because if you don't re-sign Aaron Rodgers, he's going to go on Pat McAfee's show sometime over the summer and say, yeah, they didn't want me. Would that shock you for him to do that?
No, we still might get that if the Packers go like 10-7 this year and lose in the wild card round. We'll see.
Yeah. So here's where GMs make the big bucks, and here's where the people may think it's great to be a GM, especially like when Theo Epstein got the Red Sox job at a really young age. I know you're not a baseball guy, but here's the thing. If you make the Aaron Rodgers move and you guys the Packers go for it, your fans are not going to be upset with you. Maybe you lose in the championship game or whatever. But in my mind, that's not really the smart move. And the right move to make as a GM would be to trade him for more than Seattle got. And I'll tell you why. I would be more fearful that we're going to go 14-3, secure home field advantage, and that stuff about Lambeau being such an impossible place in January to play is a bunch of bunk, right? And because we have such a good passing game, bad weather may actually hurt us more than it hurts the team that we're playing, right? Like take the 49ers. Do I want to roll the dice on that? Or would I rather roll the dice on my personnel department? The fact that I spent a first-round pick on another quarterback and that I probably have 3 first-round picks in my arsenal, or at least 2 plus 2 second-rounders and probably a second-rounder in 2024. I have all the capital I need to rebuild this team and remake it in a new image instead of winning a Super Bowl that no one's going to remember 5 years from now.
Number one, they see Jordan Love every single day. They know.
Oh, you can't use my own argument against me.
Listen.
You just used my own.
If Jordan Love was even close. Yeah, I know. If Jordan Love was even close to being ready, they would have traded Aaron Rodgers this offseason, right? He's not.
Yeah.
If this draft had an elite quarterback prospect where you say, okay, give me pick 9, we'll take our first and we'll go up and get the next Trevor Lawrence, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't have that, right? So now you're hoping that in 2023 there's a elite quarterback prospect and you're hoping that you have a high enough pick to draft them. That's why I'm not doing that.
Okay, but where's Aaron Rodgers going to be in 2023? You know,
on the second year of his 4-year deal.
Or Pat Sajak all of a sudden announces he's retiring and Aaron Rodgers cuts his hair and there he is. You know,
there's probably 150 million reasons why he's not going to be doing that.
I mean, yes, I will say this is life-changing money. And if somebody says, well, dude, the guy's already made a ton of money. Let me tell you something. When you get a $200 million deal, if you invest that properly, that $200 million can turn into $1 billion. And when you start talking about becoming a billionaire on top of all you could talk about team ownership, you know, like buying into, there's things that you can do. I don't mean ownership like an NFL team, but if you want to buy a Major League Soccer team, let's say, or if you want to, you know, that's why it's life-changing money.
Get 3 gallons of gas, whatever you wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying if the Packers go 14-3 and they have the team to do it, they have the team to do it. All things go well, maybe a little pie in the sky. And they go to Lambeau and they got to play a team like the 49ers again that, you know, run it right at them. Or if they play, say, Tennessee in the Super Bowl and Tennessee just pounds them with the run and it's not about an aerial shootout, was it worth it? I don't even think it's worth it if you win the Super Bowl. That's what I'm saying.
I do, because, man, you just got to try to be as competitive as long as you can with a franchise quarterback like this. These kind of guys don't come around very often. So make it last as long. To win a Super Bowl, Elliot. Listen, I'm not interested in participation trophies like you are. I want to go out and win.
I'm not interested in participation trophies, but so like Philadelphia's Super Bowl to me was really important because they had never won a Super Bowl. Green Bay has won 3 Super Bowls. Green Bay has won 4 Super Bowls.
But for Rodgers, playing in Green Bay probably gives him the best chance to win a Super Bowl. And listen, he only has 1. If he wants to be considered one of the greatest of all time, he's got to add at least 1 more, right? He's 1 behind Peyton Manning right now. He's how many behind Tom Brady? He's got to go out and get at least another one. So that's why I think he's coming back.
And it's possible that he wants to put his stats up there. You know, I wouldn't put that past it either. But anyway, that's enough on. I'm starting to get the ARF.
ARF. I've had that forever.
And I do need to call you out that I did Miyagi you.
Oh, I know. I just use it against you.
Marcus. Marcus and I talk about how, like, when it comes to quarterbacks and people can't understand, like, why aren't they giving this guy huge money? That team sees that player every day, not just the games like we do. They see him in meeting rooms. They see him in practice. They know what his limitations is. The coaching, you know how you always talk about how the combine is almost a process of elimination. It's better at ruling players out necessarily than elevating them. Yeah. So a coach's job, in my mind, a quarterback coach and offensive coordinator's job is to so minimize the quarterback's deficiencies that we don't see them. They don't call the plays that they don't like. If the quarterback has a hard time throwing it to the an out to the left side from the opposite hash, they're not going to call plays where that's the first, your first option. That's a terrible example, but anyway, I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. I meandered. Let's get to the other really important thing. Yeah. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say we should talk about the Calvin Ridley stuff, right?
Oh boy, now curmudgeon Carl is really about to come out. So you better take this one.
Yeah. So Calvin Ridley stepped away from the NFL late October, found out in November that he was betting on NFL games, including an 8-team parlay. First of all, Calvin, that's a bad decision to ever put that many teams in a parlay. But it was notified by the league's integrity system that Ridley signed up for one of these sites. They let the NFL know there was an investigation, and now he is suspended at least for the 2022 season, if not longer.
Yeah. So I did one of those things that one of those Elliott specials that are totally ineffective. I tweeted in like the late afternoon where you get the least engagement.
Yep.
But I actually had some people come after me yesterday because I tweeted that the hypocrisy here is very, very rich. And I had a bunch of people come after me saying that you missed the point. Players shouldn't gamble on games, period. That's all that. So do you agree with that take that the people that came after me? Okay.
Yes. Now that's when the integrity of the league looks really bad. If you've got active players wagering on games. Yes.
Okay. So if I say that the hypocrisy is rich, which is what I said, does that mean that I'm excusing Calvin Ridley gambling?
No. So you didn't like the NFL tweeting out Calvin Ridley is suspended via Caesar Sportsbook. Make sure you sign up right now for 100% deposit bonus.
Yeah.
Use promo code NFL.
Yeah. So I could have gone back on Twitter and crushed every single dissent. And I didn't because I was like, I don't want to sound like a know-it-all, even though I just sounded like one right now. I'll tell you exactly why I think it's incredibly hypocritical. And because we get a press release, we get the statement from the league, right? It's essentially a press release. They know that Adam Schefter is going to release a statement, right? How many followers does Adam Schefter have?
Like 3 million. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And Roger Goodell and his staff type out a statement. I thought the statement was good. I like the fact that he gave Calvin Ridley some credit for coming clean. Okay. Where's our statement on Stephen Ross? I sure would like to know where that is. What's going on with that investigation? How about a statement on the same day that says, by the way, we are very aware that this is a two-sided deal.
Well, they already did. Remember, they sent out a statement like 4 hours after the Brian Flores says that we already looked into this and there was nothing going on. Remember?
Yeah, like on a Friday night at 9:30. Yeah, in the evening when you were watching Picard. Actually, you wouldn't watch Picard. You don't even know what Picard is. I don't know
idea. It sounds like an old person show.
Oh man, I was in Picard was the captain of the Enterprise, and they had a spinoff show that they did, and it's actually a really good show. But I was in Arkansas, and this guy recognized me from NFL Network and said, "Hey, so are you, what are you doing right now?" And I said, "I've been watching a lot of Star Trek." And he goes, "Yeah, I heard that Pickard's coming out pretty soon." I thought that was very funny. Yeah, I always know. Yeah. So, man, look, I understand why people came after me and said players can't gamble on games. My point is very, very simple. When you talk about tanking, would you agree that tanking is fixing?
No, I wouldn't. I think tanking is because I think tanking is a strategy to build your team. I don't think tanking is fixing a game necessarily. I think it's different. Like, I think fixing is I
deliberately losing to make money.
Yes, I think tanking is the idea that, hey, this is the best thing for our team long term.
Okay.
Because
So
I know it's a fine line between those two, and I understand how that can be kind of blurry.
It's dental floss is what it is.
But there is a difference. Would you at least acknowledge that there's a difference
because of
tanking? Yes,
because of the result. In other words, or because of the motivation. The term fixing is appropriated to making money off of deliberately. So if you never saw the movie 8 Men Out, the 1919 White Sox are infamous for fixing the game so that they could lose a World Series and some of the players would make a lot of money. If you ever saw Field of Dreams, those players get to go play in the cornfield again. Yay. Okay. But if you're fixing, that means you're trying to fix the outcome of the game. If you are deliberately trying to lose, you are fixing the outcome of the game.
But there's different ways that you can do that. Like, are you telling your quarterback to purposely throw interceptions? That I think that, or to fumble the ball, that is fixing. Tanking is, hey, we've got a player who's a little bit banged up. He's got a hamstring injury. We're not going to activate him in this game. We're going to keep him on the sideline. That's a version of tanking.
You know, I had an ex-girlfriend once who didn't want me to go out with my friends because she was afraid that I was going to cheat or something. So she never said, don't go out with your friends. She literally just did everything she could to slow me down so that I finally just wouldn't go. Like, she would either argue with me so I was so exhausted I was too tired to go out, or she she would.
There's a difference though. I'm just saying there's a difference.
Okay. Look, man, tanking is very close to fixing. How about that?
Sure.
Fixing is 10 million times worse than gambling. If you're Calvin Ridley and you're gambling on the Falcons to win, you're gambling on the Falcons to win, and you're going to play your butt off.
Yes.
If you're fixing a game, not only are you affecting your own result, how much money do you think is bet on each individual game every week? Like, what if it's just Dolphins, Jags?
Millions.
Millions and millions.
Yeah.
So let's just say $50 million. You're affecting all those people that gambled on that game. You're affecting your coaches who, look, there's a difference for whatever reason. There's a difference between 9-8 and 8-9, Marcus. There just is.
Sure.
You know, this coach comes from a team that hasn't had a losing season in 5 years.
That's Mike Tomlin.
Big thing. Yeah, Mike Tomlin, right? What if Mike Tomlin, I'm so glad you brought that up. What if Mike Tomlin a couple of those years went 7-9 instead of 8-8 or 9-7?
Yeah.
The way he's talked about, because that's the number one defense of Mike Tomlin every year, is it not?
Yeah. He's never had a losing record, right?
Yes. Tanking is 10 million times worse. There's so many more tentacles to it. So look, you want to suspend Calvin Ridley for betting $1,500 for a year? I'm okay with it. I think he should be let back in the league, though.
But that was my next question. Do you think he should be allowed to be back in the league?
Yes. So in 1963, when Paul Hornig and Alex Karras were suspended for gambling, they were let back in the league the next year. They both had Hall of Fame level careers. I never met Mr. Karras. I did meet Paul Hornig. He seemed like a great guy. I don't think they had. So the rumor was about Karras that he bet on his own team or even against his own team. And I sat next to Dick LeBeau at the Hall of Fame committee, the Centennial Committee panel, and he was asked about it. Or people have asked him about it. He told me people have asked him about it, and he didn't think that Alex Karras ever did that. They were teammates. Okay, Art Schliester was banned, I think, in 1985. You'd have to check me on the year there, but Art Schliester went to prison.
83.
Was it 83? Okay.
Yep.
Well, that's weird. So he got suspended for a year, but he came back in 84, Marcus, and played.
Yep.
Art Schliester was a first-round pick out of Ohio State in 1982. This is a first-round pick at quarterback, okay? And you might think, well, what's the big deal there? Do you know who the Colts drafted with the first overall pick in 1983 after Schliester got suspended?
No,
John Elway.
John Elway.
Yeah. So it was a big deal. Art Schliester ended up being banned for forever. This can even go all the way back. This goes all the way back. The 1946 championship game, they suspended for life a quarterback and a fullback on the Giants, Frank Philcock and Merle Hay, for life because they didn't report being approached. How about that?
Yep.
So the NFL was very, very hard on this issue in the 40s, in the 60s. But here's the difference between now and then. And I know I'm giving you a dissertation on this. I just wanted to lay out the whole background. Is that they didn't have a team in Las Vegas in 1963, bro.
Yeah.
And they were not promoting gambling. The only times the NFL ever promoted gambling on any level is when CBS brought Jimmy the Greek in. And Jimmy the Greek worked on that network in the 70s and the mid 80s and talked about who he thought was going to win. Jimmy Greek did not come out and say, guys, let me tell you, Brent Musburger, you need to lay $500 down on this game. He didn't talk about parlays and that. All he said was, I think they're going to win, and I think they'll win by 2. That's what he would say. It's not that much different than what Al Michaels used to say at the end of broadcasts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not that different.
Yeah. So I now I want to ask you a question because I want your opinion on something. I know I'm super fired up about this. Do you see the difference now versus suspending those guys in the past? Do you feel it's problematic what the NFL is doing?
Yeah, of course. Right. I mean, we've got teams that are sponsored by sports books. We got a stadium that's going to be named, by a sports book here in the next couple of years. Mm-hmm. It does feel a little contradictory, right? A little bit, but at the same time, I feel like you have to do this if you're in the NFL because you can't have even the slightest bit of. I mean, you have to keep up the integrity of the NFL, right? You cannot have players betting on the league at all. And I think they went extra hard against Calvin Ridley to make it look like, hey, we're just never going to tolerate this, right?
Right. And I saw a comparison that was smart, I thought, on Twitter where someone said, look, it's kind of like the stock market. You can be busted for insider trading, but you strongly encourage your clients and customers to invest in whatever that stock is or whatever. And that's kind of like this. Just because the NFL is encouraging its consumers to gamble doesn't mean that its players who are insiders should be doing it. I understand that. But if the NFL was ethical on any level about this issue, it would have released a second statement and said something along the lines of we have something. I think you have to look at the optics of this. And Stephen Ross, that needs to be mentioned. In my mind, there needs to be some kind of statement, something. Now, some people may disagree with me on that. They could say, no, the NFL already handled it. Okay. Do you feel like there was a transparency of the Stephen Ross situation like there was with Calvin Ridley? I think you froze again. Oh, there you are. Do you think there was the same amount of transparency?
Yeah. First of all, I was just making sure my head didn't move at all. Right. I froze a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we need more transparency. I do.
Take Calvin Ridley's part of this. I thought it was really interesting that he tweeted out, look, it was $1,500. Guys, I don't have like a gambling addiction.
And I tweeted that I've said that to my wife multiple times. So I understand where Calvin Ridley's coming from.
Yeah, I love it. And by the way, I before we get out of here, I want to say to everyone that's listening, like, I realize that I sound like the bad news guy more often than Marcus does. I'm aware. I've been at it a long time. I work for the league, and your number one thing is the draft, right? That's what you're an expert at. What am I an expert at? Right. I just have decades of, I'm an NFL history buff and I know this stuff, and the NFL, it's just, so I don't mean to sound like that. I got you. I don't mean to be negative. It's kind of like, people talking about our current political situation and having no idea what Watergate was. And then other people that were around for Watergate are saying, like, does this really surprise you? Kind of thing, right? It's the same deal. So would you put it, we did a podcast, you and I did, about the state of the NFL a few Fridays back. I encourage you to listen to that if you didn't. Marcus, you made a great point in that podcast. I asked you, what would be too much? What would be too much for you? And you said, unfortunately, nothing. I love pro football so much that there's almost nothing the owners could do to make me not watch. And that's probably why they do what they do.
Correct. And I'm a bad example for that. But yeah, I think it's the truth, right?
It's the truth.
The bar it would have to be so low. And I have no idea what it would have to happen, but we'll see.
We'll see. And last point I'll make on this, Roger Goodell is not the boss. He's not the boss. The boss are the 32 owners and a couple of the power brokers that are owners. They're the boss.
Yep.
And they want to release the bare minimum on Stephen Ross. There's a reason why the Daniel Snyder stuff didn't come out the way it should have.
And it won't.
There's a reason.
Yep.
But then when Calvin Ridley bets $1,500 on the Falcons and Jags.
An Elliott Harrison special, by the way. Yep.
Yeah. Wait, was that one of the London games?
Yeah, it was. And the Falcons were favored by 2 in that game. Yep.
And they won. Falcons won. But the Jags beat Miami, and that's when Urban Meyer celebrated like they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right? On the field goal? Okay.
It's a very polite way to say that.
Yeah. I'm just saying. I'm just saying here that that part of it is rich. I didn't tweet that out yesterday. I just made it very simple, and people thought I was saying that Calvin Ridley shouldn't gamble. What do you think should happen here, by the way? What's the end game here?
I think Calvin Ridley needs to be suspended at least a year, if not multiple years. But I do think he eventually deserves a chance to come back to the league. But when, I don't know.
Does it matter to you that the evidence, so what's great is when something's not done with a bookie and it's done through one of these sites or whatever.
Mobile app. Yep, a mobile app.
Yeah, the NFL can now monitor that. And they have an agreement, per my understanding, don't they, with these mobile apps that if something, it causes a red flag.
Yep. The Hard Rock Sports mobile app in Florida contacted the NFL and said, hey, we've got a name of somebody who looks like an NFL player that tried to sign up for our site. So there you go.
Right. So we can confirm that Calvin Ridley bet on what he bet and that he bet on the Falcons to win. Does that make a difference to you?
I mean, yeah, if he was
a suspension or whatever,
if he was betting on them to lose, that's when it gets really wonky, right? Because we're entering a different territory. We haven't really seen that yet because Pete Rose was betting on his team to win when he did it in baseball, really bet on his team to win. What happens when somebody bets on their team to lose? That's when it gets really interesting.
Yeah, and I could see somebody thinking now, well, what difference does that make? Calvin Ridley was suspended. It's not like he's not friends with guys on the team. He knows if guys are
different. If somebody's hurt and they're having to go out there and play, or he knows that Matt Ryan's not playing in the week because of the meetings, that's when it gets real tough.
Or quarterback has bad ribs and can't get torque on the ball, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
you bet. Yeah. And so again, everyone out there, I think the NFL absolutely needed to suspend Calvin Ridley. Sounds like he handled it well. I just wish there was a little less hypocrisy on this issue. I don't think I'm the only one that feels that way.
No, I think it's fair. It's a fair way to feel.
But that's all I've got on those major news stories, all 3 of them, especially that one. I thought that was actually the biggest. But that's all I have. I always give you the final word. Wouldn't mind if it would be Combine if you taught me something I didn't know. But
we'll save Combine for Thursday.
Thursday with Chad. Okay. What do you got?
Steelers, Commanders, Panthers, Bucks, Saints, Seahawks. 6 teams with huge holes at quarterback. Mm-hmm. Aaron Rodgers staying, Russell Wilson traded. A couple of these teams are going to kind of get left out of the dance, right? Really curious to see what happens with these 6 teams over the next couple of weeks because there's not enough good quarterbacks to go around in free agency, in the draft or trade. Does somebody panic and give up multiple first-round picks for Kirk Cousins? Does a team try to give up 3 first-round picks for Derek Carr? I think we're in for a wild next couple of weeks.
Wow, you just thought of the exact name I was thinking when you said that. You literally just said it out loud. So that's exactly what I was thinking in terms of the quarterback you mentioned. Okay, well, that's what we got for today. On Thursday, we're going to bring in Chad Ryder. We're going to get Marcus's thoughts on the combine, which just concluded, and obviously Chad, who was there. And Friday, I don't know. I'm gonna put Marcus to work on one of his color-coded grids.
Yes, let's do it.
We'll have to look forward to that. He is at Marcus Mosher, at Marcus_Mosher. He's the host of Locked On Cowboys. I'm at Harrison NFL. We thank Eric and Herbert and Courtney for doing a great job over at Brinks, and we will see you guys on Thursday. Take care, everybody.